Imagine that you're running a Linux server, but you don't have a GUI and you need someone to pop in and remotely troubleshoot something for you. What are your options? You could grant them SSH access by opening up a port, or you could use VPN or Tailscale to get them connected. You might have to create a user for them, give them the appropriate permissions. But all of this is a little bit of a security risk, right? Especially if you forget to close up your SSH port to the remote user, or if you forget to remove their account in Linux. I was recently troubleshooting an issue with Unify OS server and upgrading to the latest version using Glenn R's easy update script, which, by the way, side note, I highly recommend. Glenn's a developer, he's also a full-time Ubiquity employee, and he keeps on top of updating his scripts with all of the latest updates to Unify OS and Unify Network. But anyways, I ran into an issue with one of those scripts and he had me install Tmate onto my Unify OS server. Now, I wasn't aware of Tmate, so I checked out how it works, and it's actually a super simple way to temporarily grant a remote user access to your SSH terminal. And since I wasn't aware of the tool, I figured there's probably others out there who are also unaware of it. So in this video, we're going to talk about how it works and how to use it. All right, let's get started. Before we dive into Tmate, we have to understand Tmux, which is another command that's used for creating multiple sessions in Linux that you can disconnect from and then you can reconnect to later. Tmux is useful if you're running some sort of long process that could possibly be interrupted by disconnecting from SSH. You fire up a Tmux session, you start your command, and then you can disconnect. Now, even if you close SSH, when you log back in, you can simply reconnect to the original Tmux session and pick up where you left off. Let me show you how that works. All right, so here I am in Linux. This is Ubuntu 25.04, and I can simply type Tmux, and now down below we get this green bar. This has created session ID 0 for me, and the name of that session by default is bash. All of the various Tmux commands can be accessed with Control-B followed by the Tmux command that you want to run. So for example, I can rename this session by doing Control-B and then comma, and then change the name, Tmux test 1. And now I've renamed that session. Now we can run some sort of command. In this case, I'm going to do htop. And now I can do Control-B followed by D to disconnect from that Tmux session, and I'm plopped right back into the Linux CLI. If I type Tmux ls, I can see that there is an existing session with one window ready to go. And now if I type Tmux attach -T and then the session ID, which is 0, I'm right back into that session. You can also create multiple windows within a session, just like having multiple tabs in a browser. To do that, you can say Control-B followed by C to create a new one. Let's go ahead and rename this one as well. Control-B, comma. We'll call this Tmux test 2. And now down in the green bar within this Tmux session, I have window 0, Tmux test 1, and window 1, Tmux test 2. So let me run top in this new window, and I've got htop running in the first session. I can now do Control-B 0 to switch to the first window, and then Control-B 1 to switch to my second window. Okay, so that's the basics of Tmux, but all of that is just various windows and sessions on a single system. Tmate takes that a step further and piggybacks on top of Tmux to proxy the session through a URL called tmate.io. Tmate, by the way, is fully open source, and you can find the link on GitHub. And even though these Tmate proxy sessions are fully end-to-end encrypted, if you're uncomfortable with a session running through the tmate.io proxy server, you can just self-host your own Tmate server if you want. Okay, so now let me show you how Tmate works. The first thing you're going to want to do is install it by running sudo apt install tmate-y. All right, sudo apt install tmate-y. And there we go. And then to run it, you simply type Tmate. When you run Tmate, you're going to be given a number of URLs that you can now copy and paste. You've got URLs for SSH and URLs for web session. In each of those categories, you get one URL for read-only if you just want to show a remote user what you're doing, but you don't want them to have any control over your input. And then there's a non-read-only version where they can actually connect and run commands. So here, I'm going to take this SSH session here, and I'm going to do Control Insert to copy it. And then I've got a different server that I'm running over here. And I'm going to do Shift Insert to paste that in. Go ahead and run that SSH, accept the fingerprint, and now my remote session has full control over the server where I ran Tmate. Now, I did this with Linux, but you could also do it with Windows SSH through the command prompt or through PowerShell. So for example, we're going to SSH here, accept the fingerprint, and now I've got a third session running, and notice top, quit, htop. Everyone who's connected to the Tmate session sees the exact same input and output since you're literally looking at the Linux CLI for this session. Okay, so in what scenario is this useful? Imagine I have a client that's having some sort of issue with their Linux server. I can just send them the command to install and run Tmate and then have them send me the SSH session link. I can now connect to their server and run commands as if I'm directly connected myself, and they can see everything that I'm doing. So it's not like my commands are obscured because I logged in as a different user or something. Since it's proxied, they don't have to poke any holes in their firewall, and they didn't have to connect me into their VPN or create a user for me or give me their server's root credentials. They only had to send me that SSH link, and I'm proxied through tmate.io directly into their server. When the session is done, they can simply type exit, and that Tmate session is closed, which is pretty cool. When you launch Tmate on the server, you're given both an SSH and an HTTPS URL. The purpose of the HTTPS URL is supposed to be a link that you can give to a remote user, and then when they pop it into a browser, it opens up a web-based SSH session that's proxied through tmate.io. But when I've tried this, I keep getting a 503 server unavailable message, and after poking around a bit online, this seems to be a pretty common issue with the browser-based URL for Tmate just being a little bit flaky. So basically, just stick to SSH. In fact, let's try it now. I'm gonna grab this web session URL, Control Insert, paste it into a browser, and yeah, same thing. So the HTTPS stuff doesn't seem to work, but the SSH does. One other thing you should know, if you launch Tmate, but you didn't copy down the SSH connection info, you can always see it again by running tmate show-messages, and those URLs will pop up for you again. So anyway, a very, very cool tool, and I was quite impressed with how easy it is to use and how helpful it would be to troubleshoot customer servers here at Crosstalk Solutions or at Rogue Support. And hopefully you found this interesting too. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and if you'd like to keep this party going, I have hand-selected a couple of videos on the right here for you to watch next. The top video is my recent review of the new Comet KVMs from GLINet, which are also super useful tools for remote access, and the bottom video is my recent video on FreePBX15 going end of life and what your options are for upgrading.